Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is the 1st of February and I am opening this wrap-up vlog. So I'm going to do my wrap-up slightly different for the rest of the year. I'm still going to be doing them vlog style, but I'm going to be including a TBR at the start of each wrap-up video. So I don't do separate TBRs. I've done it occasionally if I've been doing a specific readathon or something, but I don't tend to do them as part of my regular content, just because I tend to read my TBRs, so I feel like if I put a video up at the start of February being like, these are the books I'm going to read in the month, you're then going to get the exact same content at the end of the month when my wrap-up goes up, and I can't really personally see the point of that. So what I thought I would do is to start including them in these videos, because a few people have asked me to do TBR videos, but obviously, like I said, I don't do them, so I thought this would kind of combine the two. Also, the way that I'm going to run my TBRs is going to be very different for the rest of the year. So for January, my TBR aim was to clear down the rest of the books that I had received for my birthday, which I did, plus a few others and a few Christmas gifts and things, as you will have seen if you've seen that wrap up, which I will link in the description for you. And I've kind of reached a point with my TBR where I'm so excited to read all of the books on it, which is obviously a great non-problem to have, that I genuinely can't choose them. I'm very much someone that needs a TBR. I cannot mood read, as Charlotte will tell you, because I've tried previously and then spent all month whinging to her and making her choose things for me to read. I think it's just years of having reading lists from school, college and university has basically ruined my ability to mood read. So I am someone who needs structure and a plan, but I can't choose what I want to read from my shelves. So what I'm going to be doing for probably at least the next 3 or 4 months, if not the rest of the year, is I'm going to be playing a few TBR games, and I have plans for the next 4 months, but if there are any specific TBR games that you think I should have a go at, then please let me know, drop me a comment, let me know. This month, Twitter is going to be controlling my reading for me, which I can't lie, I'm a little bit scared about. I also this month want to read hardbacks as much as possible. I have got a whole shelf of beautiful hardbacks on my TBR shelves. As you guys know, it is my preferred, what's it called? My preferred way of reading. I love a hardback. I know they're not for everybody. I really enjoy them. I enjoy the weight of them. I enjoy the physical experience of reading them, and I also prefer the way they look on my shelves. I think these just look nicer than these, mostly because I crack spines and you can't tell that I've cracked these spines, whereas these are looking well loved, let's say. And also we're going to be in lockdown for the rest of February, as far as I know, and so this is the time, because I'm not leaving the house. I don't have to worry about having a heavy book in my bag, so I might as well get on and read my hardbacks. So what I did yesterday was I went on Twitter. I've not said anything to anyone, nobody knows this is what I'm doing at the time of filming this, and I just asked people to respond to a tweet with a number between 1 and 12, which is the number of hardbacks on the TBR shelf. People responded, and we'll see in a minute what they chose for me. I do quickly just want to show you 5 books that I need to read this month for various reasons, which I will show you as we go through. 3 of them are hardback, 2 are paperback, so it's a month of almost hardbacks. So the first book that I need to read this month is Wundersmith by Jessica Townsend. As you can see, I'm almost halfway through it. This is not a wrap up, so I'm not going to get into it, but I want to take part in Olivia Catastrophe's live show. She's doing Wander Along with another creator who I will link in the description because I'm terrible with names, very sorry. They are doing Wander Along, which started last month and finishes in March, and I would like to take part in that, and this is the book for this month, so I'm reading that. My brother also sent me 3 literary fiction books for Christmas, and as I always do when he sends me books for Christmas or birthday, I'm going to read one a month. One of them, but there was only one that was a hardback, so I picked it by default, and that is, I really don't think I'm saying this right, Apeirogon. I'm going to find out to say that, by Colum McCann. Again, I need to find out how to say that. I have started this. I'm 50 pages in. It's big, so I don't think you'll see a clip for a while, but this is the book that I have selected from my brother's books this month. I have also got MaddAddam by Margaret Atwood. This is this month's Atwood read for What the Book Club Read, which finishes off with the Oryx and Crake trilogy. I have read this before, as you can probably tell. Look at the state of that. honestly, I shouldn't be allowed to own books. This finishes off the trilogy, and I've read it before more than once, and I can't remember how this all comes together, so I'm excited for that. I've then got a buddy read with the lovely Simone from Simone and I. This book doesn't have a dust jacket because it came from Charlotte at Books and Bargains. She was getting rid of it and I snagged it, and that is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Hopefully I've said that right as well. So there's that one. And then my classic for the month is a book that my husband gifted me for Christmas, and that is The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. This is the interactive and illustrated edition by Mina Lima. This is the last one in the Mina Lima collection that I haven't read, and I'm very excited to read this. I've never actually read The Jungle Book, so I'm very intrigued. And as always with this collection, look how stunning. So those are the 5 books that are already on my TBR. Let's go and see what the internet chose for me. Okay, this is my TBR. That's all of my unread books. As I said, I'm going to focus on my hardbacks this month. These have been arranged in the order that they came in. So this is number 1 because it's the oldest, and that's number 12. So let's see what the internet's chosen for me. Okay, so I've got my TBR. This was really fun to do. I can kind of see why people play TBR games now. So I went on Twitter. I found the tweet. I will link my Twitter in the description in case you want, I don't know, cat gifts and whatever else I jabber on about on the internet. Went on there and grabbed the first lot of answers that I had. Obviously multiple people responded with the same number, but I've just taken the first person. So I'm going to whip through these, and this is what I'm going to be reading this month. So the lovely Gavin from How to Train Your Gavin responded. He was the first person to respond. He gave me the number 7, which equated to A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. I'm really excited for this. Look how pretty. I've heard really, really great things. So yeah, that's the first one. Then the lovely Sylvie from the TBR Diaries gave me number 8, which came out as The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E.Schwab. This one, I can't lie, I'm a little bit nervous about. I've heard good things, but I've also heard that it's very slow and kind of character driven, which is not always my bag, but I wanted to try V.E.Schwab for a while, so this seemed like a good one to start with. Then Charlie from Charlie Book gave me the number 2, which was another book from Charlotte that doesn't have a dust jacket, but that is Platform 7 by Louise Doughty. I can't actually remember anything about this one, so that'll be interesting. Next, somebody called Life with Books 82 on Twitter responded with the number 5, which is it's not about the Burqa, edited by Mariam Khan. This is non-fiction, and I'm really pleased this came up because I've been excited to read this for a while. Next, Violet from the Neverending TBR gave me the number 10, which came out as The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. Very excited for this. I'm very excited about all of these. This is why I'm having other people choose my TBR. And then the lovely Laura from Laura's Bookish Thoughts gave me number 1, which is You Are Not Alone by Greer, Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen, another book that Charlotte gave me when she unhauled. I love it when she unhauls. And then we've got 2 more. So Jackie Sidney from Twitter gave me the number 9, which came out as Agnes at the End of the World by Kelly McWilliams, which is another book I've heard really good things about. And then finally, my lovely friend Kat from Brews and Reviews gave me the number 4. And thankfully, this is probably the shortest hardback that I own, and that is The Silence by Don DeLillo, which was sent to me by Book Break, and I've been meaning to read it for a while, so I'm very excited for this one. And look how short. I mean, thank goodness, because these are big books. So these are the books that have been chosen for me by Twitter. Can I hold these all up in one go? Let's give it a try. Oh, blimey. Those are the books. I will be reading them in this order. I'm going to interweave them with the other books on my TBR that I need to read, because as much as I always like to have a TBR, but then I give myself quite a lot of freedom within that TBR on the order I read. So you will be seeing as many of these books as I can in this wrap up. Let's see how I do. It's the 5th of February, and after a very slow start to my reading month, this week has been a bit complicated. Being a PGCE student in a pandemic is tricky in ways that, some ways in which I was expecting and others I wasn't expecting, and it's been a bit of a week, but we're getting there now. And yeah, my reading has been very slow. For some reason I thought it was a good idea to pick up 4 books at the start of the month that are all 400 pages. So yeah. Anyway, I finally finished a book last night, and then I got 2 books which are sort of connected with this book that I've bought that I wanted to show you. So the book that I finished trying to cut the waffling, was Wundersmith by Jessica Townsend. If you saw my January wrap up, which I will link in the description, you'll see that I was gifted this the end of January by my lovely friend Amy. How gorgeous is this cover? I'm just in love with this series. This is the second book in the Morrigan Crow series, so I can't really tell you much about it. It picks up just where the first book leaves off, and it's an adventure story. It's a middle grade adventure story, and I just had the best time. I'm completely in love with Morrigan, the world that's been created. It's very much filled the gap in my life that has been left by another book series that I don't want to talk about. And I feel like this is very much taking the place of that, but it's actually better because it's inclusive and it's interesting, and yeah, just had a lovely time. I did give it 4 stars because although you can see the progression in the author's writing from the first book, which was her debut, the pace was still a little bit slow in this, and there was a lot of like adults having conversations over Morrigan's head, and I guess that is probably the experience of lots of kids, unfortunately, but I feel like when you're reading from a child's perspective, that I got a bit frustrated with that, and yeah, the pace was a little bit slow. But I'm hoping that the third book will give us some more answers. I still very, very much enjoyed this, and I had a fantastic time. So yeah, that was my first read of the month. And then I did a thing. I don't buy many books. I think I've said this before. I don't buy very many books, but I did a thing. So as you guys know, I generally prefer hardback books, as I have mentioned in the introduction of this video. And so I bought the hardbacks of Wundersmith and Hollowpox, which is the next in the series. I do not need this one because I have this one, but I would very much like a complete set of the hardbacks. So even though the first book is almost impossible to find in hardback, and I'm currently scouring eBay and various secondhand book websites, because you can only really get one, hold of one, if you spend about 50 quid, which I'm just not prepared to do at this point, although I might get desperate and do it at some future point. Yeah, I really want them in hardback. And also Hollowpox, which is the third book, isn't out in paperback until June, and there's just no way I can wait until June to continue the story. So yes, I mean, obviously the covers for these are the same, but I mean, look away now if you don't want spoilers, but look at the naked hardback. I mean, you know, I was kind of umming and ahhing about getting the hardbacks, and then I saw Sylvie from the TBR Diaries hold the hardbacks. Look at these end pages. Hold the hardback editions, and she showed the naked hardbacks, and I was just like, I need that. I need it immediately. And then this one, and the back as well, and then the naked hardback. It's just, you know what? I needed it. I needed it in my life, because I mean, I needed them. And so I bought them. It's the 8th of February. I'm just about to start my first day of teaching for the week, and wow, this lighting. It's very bright outside, but we're just going to roll with it. Over the weekend I finished 2 books. So the first book that I finished was Apeirogon by Colum McCann, which is this gorgeous silvery colour dust jacket. This was one of the books that my brother sent me for Christmas. If you don't know, my brother sent me 3 literary fiction books for Christmas, and he included little notes inside to explain them, and in this one he said, "This is not quite as big as it looks. Not sure what you make of this, but this was the best book I read in 2020 and thought the structure was so interesting, and it's heartbreaking." So this follows 2 men. One is Israeli, one is Palestinian. They both have lost or lose during this book, their daughters in 2 separate attacks. One of them has I think she's 10 or 11 years old, and she is hit by a rubber bullet and is killed, and the other man's daughter is caught up in a suicide bomb attack and is killed. And they live on opposite sides of the wall. Their lives are supposed to be very separate, but after those 2 events, basically they end up coming together. And it's about the ways that their lives are connected and their lives are the same. And it's kind of got this message of like, underneath all of the labels that we carry, we are just humans. I thought this was interesting. I did slog through this book. It's big. Ben said in it, it's not as big as it looks. It's still 480 pages or something, so it's a big beast. The reason Ben said it's not as big as it looks is because of the way that it's structured, and I did find that really interesting, because there are no chapters as such, there's just sections, and some of them are a couple of pages, like some of them are a single line, some of them are you know, a few paragraphs, and then some are a few pages long, and that's really interesting. And what the author does is he is following these stories, but it's not told in a linear timeline. It moves back and forth in time, and he'll be talking about one thing and then he'll hyper focus on that thing for the next chapter. So for example, when he's talking about the man whose daughter is hit by a rubber bullet, he then looks at how the rubber bullets are made, where they came from, who invented them, who first used them, that kind of thing. So it is really interesting, but I struggled. It's very slow moving. And I think because some of the chapters are super short and some are much longer, I struggled. There was no rhythm for me. I was struggling with the rhythm of it. So I've given it 4 stars because it is beautifully written. I think the other reason I didn't quite love it is because it's not own voices. The author is Irish, and I feel like it might have been more powerful coming from an own voices author. So if you know of any own voices books that focus on this topic, please do let me know. The other interesting thing with this is it does ride the line between fiction and non-fiction, because the 2 men that he follows in this book are real people. These are real events, and he's kind of fictionalized those events, I think. So yeah, it's very much on that line between fiction and non-fiction. So it was interesting. I enjoyed the structure. The structure was interesting, but I'm not sure if I'd read anything else by this author because it was hard work. And then the second book that I finished was the Atwood for this month, which was MaddAddam. This is the end of the Oryx and Crake trilogy, or the trilogy that starts with Oryx and Crake. It's actually called the MaddAddam trilogy. So this is the third in the trilogy, which means I can't really get into it, but they are dystopian, post-apocalyptic sci-fi books. This is the third book in the trilogy. I think it's a lot of fun. This book does something that I really enjoy, which you get quite a way through and then you suddenly realise what you're reading, and I love when books do that. So I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars. Atwood is not, in my opinion, she's not great at endings. And I feel like this is a better ending than we've had in her earlier works, but it still wasn't great. So it was a 4 star for me, but I still really enjoyed it, and it feels like my reading is finally off to a decent start. It's still the 8th of February, and as you can probably tell from my dishevelled appearance, I'm partway through my teaching day, but I've just had a delivery and I wanted to show you because I'm very excited about it. Basically, I ordered some wax melts from a shop on Etsy, and they've included their card, so it's the Waxing Lyrical shop on Etsy, which I will also link in the description. My best friend Steph, who is not on Booktube, she ordered some wax melts a couple of weeks ago, and she sent me a picture of the ones that she'd got, and they look so good that I just had to order some as well. And there's also the reason I am going to show you these is there's one that's like a bookish scent that I'm very excited about. So they have come really beautifully wrapped. We love that. We love the little details. We also love to support the independent businesses. Oh, they look so good. Okay, so there they are in the box. So I've got 4 different scents, and I think it's about £15 delivered, which I thought was pretty good, given that I would spend that much on like one candle. You guys know that I love candles and scents and things, so I will show you the non-bookish ones first, and then I'll show you the bookish one at the end. So I've gone for Parma Violet because that's Charlie's favourite sweets. I've gone for Pure Cotton because, as I mentioned in my January wrap up, I just love a nice clean scent at this time of year. And then I got Rhubarb and Custard as well because, oh, man, that smells so good. Those are my favourite sweets, and also Gary's. Oh man, they smell so good. And then the one that I was most excited about, and the reason that I put this order in, was Library Book, which does unfortunately have a little spell mistake on it, but that's fine. And this smells, oh man, it smells like, Steph said it's like tobacco and like fireplaces, but in a good way. Quite smoky, I think. So, oh man, that really does smell like a library book. Wow, okay, very excited for these. And then to go with it, from a different Etsy store, which I will also link in the description, I also got this little cool little burner. I do have a burner, but I wanted one for my office as well. So yeah, I just thought this was fun. So yeah, that is what's arrived in the post today, and it's going to make my house smell very nice. It's still the 8th of February, as you can probably tell. I have one more lesson left of the day, but this has arrived and I haven't ordered anything. So let's find out what it is together. Unless it's a pre-order that's coming early, but I think I moved all of my pre-orders over to Waterstones. Oh, it's definitely a present because there is a gift note. Ah, there should be more kindness in the world. So I'm randomly picking my favourite booktubers to send a little something to from Chris. That's exciting. What have we... Excellent choice. I have been sent Chocolat by Joanne Harris. I have wanted to read this for ages, and this is a really beautiful floppy paperback. So yeah, this is historical fiction, I think. I've seen the film, and it's about a woman who moves to a very religious town just before Lent, I think, and she opens up a chocolatier. And yeah, loads of people told me to read it because I love historical fiction and I love books about food, and apparently this is both. So thank you very much, Chris. That was so kind of you. It's the 10th of February. I am today filming, as you can see in my filming setup, so I'm finally getting my February content filmed. Hopefully, because if I haven't done it today, you've probably not had any February content, so let's hope I manage to get that done. But last night I finished 2 books. The first book that I finished was The Silence by Don DeLillo. Hopefully I've said that correctly. This was kindly sent to me by Book Break in exchange for an honest review, and it's an odd one. I was excited for this because I really like the premise. So it's set on Super Bowl Sunday in 2022, which is obviously next year. I started this on Super Bowl Sunday, finished it really quickly because it's short. And basically everyone is watching the Super Bowl and then all electronic communication stops, which is why it's called The Silence. And I thought it was going to be like a short kind of end of the world type story, and it kind of is. We're following a group of 5 people. 3 of them are gathered in an apartment in New York waiting for the other 2 to arrive. The other 2 are on a plane when all of the electronic stuff cuts out, which obviously has a massive effect on the plane. But it was just a bit odd. We didn't really get into what was happening. It was more kind of discussions around Einstein's theories, and I didn't enjoy it, and I'm really sad because I was really looking forward to this. So yeah, I've given it a 3 out of 5 because the premise is good and I can tell that it's well written. It just really wasn't for me, so that was a shame. And then the other one that I finished, which I loved, was A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. First of all, can we just enjoy this cover because it's stunning. It's gonna look so good on my shelf. This was gifted to me by Thomas on Twitter over Christmas, and I was so excited to get to this. Well, I say that I was excited to get to this, but I also wasn't quite sure what I was going to get and how I was going to feel about it, because this is YA fantasy, which typically isn't my thing, although I can think of a few YA fantasies that I've enjoyed lately, such as A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This is West African inspired. And we're following a young boy who is a refugee and he's travelling with his sisters, and at the same time we also get her perspective. Karina, she is the princess, and she's about to become the sultana of the world, the queen, and their paths cross basically, and it's an enemies to lovers type trope. But the world building is just such a rich world. There is a thread of magic that runs through it, but magic is forbidden. We've also got all kinds of topics around grief and family, and mental health, PTSD, anxiety, panic attacks. I mean, it's just, there's so much going on, and I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was one of those books where as soon as I read it, as soon as I started reading it, it's one of those books where you kind of like sink into the page. It's just gorgeous. One other thing that I just want to point out as well, which I absolutely, as soon as I opened the book, I was like, this is going to be a book for me, because we have a content warning. We also have this gorgeous map, but we have a content warning which reads, please note this book depicts issues of mild self-harm, ideation, fantasy violence, emotional and physical abuse, anxiety and panic attacks, parent death and animal death. I have done my best to approach these topics with sensitivity, but if you feel this kind of content may be triggering, please be aware, which I just was like, yes, this is what we need from all authors. I thought this was fantastic. For me, the pace was a little bit slow, sort of in the middle, sort of mid to end. I felt like it was a little bit slow, and then right at the very end it like all kicks off at the same time, which is pretty typical of YA fantasy, so it's fine. I've given it a 4 out of 5 stars, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've pre-ordered the second one, the name of which has completely escaped me now. It doesn't come out until September, which is a problem because I need the next book. And yeah, I just had a thoroughly brilliant time. It's the 11th of February. I'm not going to show you what I look like because I look like I've been dragged through a hedge backwards after another very long day. But I am about to watch Margaret Atwood speak live for the very, very first time, and I am so excited. It's the 10th of February and Margaret Atwood was just magnificent last night, as I knew she would be. I've never seen her speak before live, so it was a really big deal. She was just so interesting and funny, and I could just listen to her talk all night. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that. I think you saw it in the previous clip, but it was the Guardian Book Club who hosted the event. They've got another one with Maggie O'Farrell in April that I've already signed up for. So yeah, had a thoroughly lovely evening. And today I've had some book break mail. They have very kindly sent me 16 Horses by Greg Buchanan. This is a crime thriller, I think. So it says, near the dying English seaside town of Illmarsh, local police detective Alec Nichols discovers 16 horses on a head farm, each buried with a single eye facing the low winter sun. After forensic veterinarian Cooper Allen travels to the scene, the investigators soon discover evidence of a chain of crimes in the community: disappearances, arson, and worse, all culminating in the reveal of something deadly lurking in the ground itself. So this comes out on the 13th of May, which means it will be on my April TBR. I love this cover. This is the proof. I'm not sure what the actual cover will look like. And I have never read anything by Greg Buchanan. Don't know if he's a debut author or not, but I'm really excited to read this, so thank you very, very much, Book Break. It is the 15th of February and it is half term, which actually doesn't mean anything to me this time. And actually, I think it probably won't mean anything going forwards as well, because all the teachers that I know are working like mad this week, finishing like marking from last term and preparing for next term. I have so much to do because I also obviously have uni that I've actually, I'll show you, created my own timetable for this week, which as you can see is like broken down into different sections, colour coordinated. I've only scheduled Monday to Wednesday, and if I can get everything done in that time then I can have Thursday, Friday off. But I suspect I will be working Thursday, Friday because there is just so much to do. I need to start my third assignment for uni, which is the big like 6,000 word one. I need to get all of my lesson prep done because after half term I'm taking over my year 7, year 9 and year 10 lessons, which I'm really nervous about. I feel like I wouldn't be as nervous if we were teaching in school, but there is something about online teaching that just makes me really uncomfortable. So yeah, I've got a lot to do, and then I've got like life admin stuff to do that I don't have time for during the teaching weeks. So yeah, I've got a lot to do this week, which is why I've made that nerdy little schedule, but I am hoping to get at least Friday away from my laptop, but we'll see how that goes. However, over the weekend I did finish 4 books and I've had another book break delivery, so obviously I needed to film a clip. The first 2 books don't have the dust jackets on because I got them secondhand from Charlotte from Books and Bargains when she was getting rid of a load of books last year. The first of those is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This was such a like Booktube favourite last year. It's a thriller, it's marketed as a thriller, and we are following a psychiatrist who is treating a woman who shot her husband 5 times in the face and was found holding the gun next to his dead body, and since that event she hasn't spoken a single word and he is going to try and get her to talk, and we kind of follow what happens. Yeah, like I said, this was such a like book community darling last year, and I was looking on Goodreads, so many of my friends have read it, loads and loads of people have read it. Most people give it 4 or 5 stars. I've given it 2. I hated it. I really didn't like it. I can see why it has mass appeal. I feel like if I had read this book like maybe 5 years ago on holiday by the pool, I probably would have enjoyed it and given it 4 or 5 stars. But this was written, I feel like this was written 2009, let me check. Oh, sorry, my computer's making noises. Yeah, I feel like this was written, 2009. And the body shaming in this, I just could not get over. There is one character who is fat and she is described as horrific, basically. The way she's described is awful, and she is one of the bad guys because she's fat. And yeah, I just couldn't deal with that. And then I'm going to put this down because there's no cover on it. I thought that was really bad. The mental health rep I thought was terrible. It's set on a mental health ward mostly, and I just felt like the main character is supposed to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist or whatever, and he is the kind of he's the kind of medical professional that you'd want to avoid if you had a mental health issue. There is also the big twist, which I thought was really signposted from about 50 pages in. I caught on to what was happening, and I've said this before, if I spot the twist in a thriller, that's not doesn't necessarily mean that I will mark it down, because I read a lot of them, but this one I felt like was really obvious, and there were so many threads that were left unresolved. I just thought it was bad. I thought the writing was poor. I thought it was really loosely written. It felt like a first draft. Yeah, no, this was not the one for me, and I got a 2-star. I then read another book that Charlotte gifted me, which was Platform 7 by Louise Doughty. Again, this did the rounds last year on Booktube, and I think I saw really mixed reviews, and I think again it's one that suffers from being given the wrong genre, because it's described as a thriller and it isn't, and I knew that going in, and I think that's why I enjoyed it as much as I did. To me, this is literary fiction. I'm going to put this down again as well, because it doesn't have a pretty cover to show you. I think it's literary fiction, and going in with that in my head, I think I enjoyed it way more than if I had been expecting a thriller. So we start on Platform 7 in a train station in the UK, and we've got an omniscient narrator who watches a man commit suicide by stepping in front of a freight train, and we don't know who the narrator is to start with, hence being omniscient. I can't say that word too many times, but it becomes very clear to us very quickly that we are following a woman who is also dead, and we are working out how she died, why she is stuck on Platform 7, and what happened to her, and it moves back in time and looks at her life and kind of how things lead up to it. I enjoyed most of this book. I feel like the start and the end were really slow, and I was like, come on, get on with it. There's a lot of very quite beautiful descriptive writing, and if you go in thinking it's literary fiction, I feel like that fits the genre, whereas if you thought it was a thriller, I think it would just feel a bit unnecessary. It is very much centred around coercive control and emotional abuse and domestic abuse, so be aware of that, and obviously suicide as well. Oh, I need to give content warning for The Silent Patient. Obviously mental health issues, which I think are badly done. There is also discussion of suicide attempts and a successful suicide, and obviously murder and general violence, so just be aware of that. This one also has obviously discussions of suicide in it. There is also discussion, but we don't see it on the page, of child abuse, and there is a very abusive relationship. And I thought the middle section of it was done really well. I feel like it was at least 100 or 150 pages too long. It's over 400 pages, so it's quite a big one. But I very much enjoyed the middle section. I enjoyed her writing, and I would read more from her. So I've given it a 4 out of 5 in the end. So that was that one. Then I read The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. This was gifted to me. I can't remember who it gifted. I think it was Simone. Let me just check. Yes, it was. It was Simone for me. Simone and I gifted this to me for Christmas. This book I've wanted to read for ages, and I was really looking forward to it. This is, I think it was said it's kind of The Handmaid's Tale crossed with Lord of the Flies, and it kind of is. We're in a world where, we're in a society where when girls reach, I think it's 16 or 17, I think it's 17, the society believes that girls have women have literal magic that they use to control men, and so on their 16th or 17th year they have their grace year, where they are sent away from society out into the wilderness to get rid of their magic, to kind of expel their magic, and then when they come back they're expected to be kind of docile wives and mothers that the community wants. It's a very patriarchal society, and yeah, and it's about, we follow Tierney on her grace year. I really enjoyed this. What I really liked about it is we quite often get dystopian fiction where we get the setup of the thing that happens, but then the thing that happens doesn't happen because the main character kind of takes down the society before it can happen, whereas we actually see the grace year in this book. And I really enjoyed getting to see that, how it works, and what was happening behind the scenes and all that kind of stuff. I thought it was really clever. It did do one thing that really annoyed me. It followed a YA trope that I'm obviously not going to say because it's a spoiler, and I just thought, oh, why did you have to do that? And also, if it was going to do that, I thought it was going in one direction, which would have been more of a shock and a twist, and it wasn't. So yeah, I didn't love that part of it, but it is obviously YA, so maybe it would appeal more to the intended audience. I thought this was really clever. I thought it was well written. It has a lot to say about feminism and about being yourself and using your voice, and also about how groups of people can influence each other, and kind of like mass hysteria is explored quite a bit, and I really liked it. This book is brutal. This is definitely the upper end of YA. It's almost horror in some of the things that happen. So there is a lot of violence, there's a lot of wound description. What else have we got in here for content warnings? I think that's it, but it's very brutal, and it's very visceral in places, so just be aware going in. This is not for the weak stomachs. But yeah, I thought this was really well done. I really liked the ending. The ending will not be for everybody, but I really liked the way that this ended. I thought it was clever. I've not seen it done before in YA fiction, so I thought that was great. And yeah, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. So thank you, Simone. And then the last book that I read last weekend was a gift from my husband for Christmas, and that is The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. This is the illustrated interactive edition from Mina Lima. I now have the full set of these because I am a very lucky lady. And this was just, these books are such a treat to sit down and read. I've never read The Jungle Book before. I loved the Disney film when I was a kid. Little fact about me, my dad used to call me Mowgli when I was a kid because I looked a bit like Mowgli from the film. But I've never read the book, so it was nice to sit down and read this. Obviously, with the time that it was written, you know, it was written at a time when England had colonised parts of India, and this book feels very imperialistic Britain. It's actually a series of short stories. It's not one long story, and yeah, just be aware there are some potentially problematic things in it. In terms of the illustrations and the interactive bits, I always love these books. They are so clever, so cleverly done. I can't imagine being this clever. As I always say when I show these books, I'm not going to show any of the interactive elements because I feel like it's a spoiler, and it's a big part of the reading experience is to settle down and like explore those as you go. But I will just show you one of the chapter illustrations so you get an idea of the style. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and yeah, I had a fabulous time reading this, and I gave it a 3 or a 4. I think I gave it a 4 in the end. I think the stories themselves are a 3, but with the extra reading experience of these, it was a 4 for me overall. So there was that. And then I had a book break delivery on Saturday, and that is Liberty by Gita Trelease. I really don't like the font on this because I'm not sure how to say it. So the first book in this series was Enchantée, which I read, I want to say 2018. I think I read it at the start of my Booktube channel. And it's historical fiction set around the French Revolution. Can't really say any more than that. This book is beautiful. I'm not sure if this is an arc. It doesn't say that it is, so I'm assuming it's out now. I enjoyed the first one. I think I gave it a 3 or a 4. I've seen mixed things, but I thought it was fun. It was a debut novel, and like I think you could tell in the writing, so I'm interested to see how her writing's progressed. Yeah, so I'm very excited for this one, and you will be seeing it shortly. It's the 16th of February, and as you already hear from my voice and the fact that my hair is wet, we are at the start of another day. I'm fresh out of the shower and just about to start another day of planning. But before I get stuck into that, I wanted to talk about 2 books that arrived last night that I was gifted. As you guys know, I generally try and open gifts on camera so that whoever sent it can see my reaction. But it's Gary's 50th birthday. Excuse me, my voice is really worn this morning. It's Gary's 50th birthday next month, and I've obviously been getting organised for that, and parcels have started to arrive, well, kind of flood in, because you know your husband only turns 50 once, and yeah, and I thought this was supplies for that, so I just ripped both boxes open without being on camera, so I'm sorry to the people that sent them, but I am so excited to have these, and they came with the most lovely notes as well. So the first one that I opened was A Little Women by Louise May Alcott. It's in the lovely Macmillan Library collection, which I'm collecting. It's got the gorgeous gold sprayed edges and the illustration on the front of the sisters and on the back. This is a book that I've read, so this will go straight onto my read shelf, but I just really love this edition. Basically, I just really wanted it. It's quite the chunk. It's over 600, it's 655 pages, although granted they are like small pages. But yeah, this was such a beautiful gift to receive. This was sent to me by Sheila, and she included this lovely note So, goodness sake, I should have had a drink of water before I filmed this clip. So Sheila from SS Loves Books on Instagram. She said, I love your channel and have added many books to my TBR. As a teacher, I know how important this year is, but your love and enthusiasm shines through. This time will pass. I hope you enjoy. And that's just such a lovely, like, little boost to send me, and I really needed it yesterday. So yes, thank you, Sheila, that's so kind of you. And I love when people say that they've added books to their TBR because of my Booktube channel. So yeah, Sheila, let me know which books you've added and let me know how you get on when you read them, because that would be exciting to know. And then the other parcel that I got was The Whisper Man by Alex North, and I'm really excited for this thriller. This did the rounds, I think, was it last year it came out? When was this? 2019. So yeah, it's done the rounds on Booktube over the last like year and a half. And it says on the front, if you leave a door half open, soon you'll hear the whispers spoken. That sounds really creepy. It's also blurbed by Steve Kavanagh, who wrote 13, which I really enjoy. I don't read the back of thrillers because it tends to be too much information, but I saw April from Getting Hooker With It talk about this book really recently. I've only just put it onto my wish list actually. So yeah, I was really excited when that popped through, and this came from Louise, who was also on Instagram, but I don't think she's a public account. I think she's not a creator. She's just a private person. So I won't like say her surname or anything just in case. But her note was so lovely. It said, to Victoria, just a little something I feel is way overdue to thank you for all your lovely content that's kept me going for the last year. I feel so lucky to have found you when I did. Endless thanks, from Louise. And it's so kind, but honestly, none of you owe me anything. I'm just glad that somebody gets something out of the chaos that is my channel. So yeah, those are the two books that I received yesterday, which was such a wonderful surprise, and I really do appreciate it. It's the 17th of February, and last night I finished You Are Not Alone by Greer, Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. So this writing duo, I've read one other book from. Their debut was The Wife Between Us, which I read either right at the start of my Booktube channel or just before I started it. And it is such a Marmite book. I haven't come across anyone, I don't think, who's given it kind of a meh, it was okay review. You either love it or hate it. And at the time I read it, I was definitely on team love it. It was one of those rare thrillers for me that really caught me out. And it did something that is one of my favourite things in books, although obviously I can't tell you what that is because of spoilers. It's also a rare thriller for me because I've kept it still on my shelves downstairs, which means I gave it either 4 or 5 stars. But I've kept it because I fully intend at some point to reread it. So when Charlotte from Books and Bargains was getting rid of this copy of their 3rd book, I was like, yes please. I haven't read the middle one. I can't remember what that one's called. Anonymous Girls on the back. Yeah, so when she was unhauling this copy, I was like, oh, can I have that please? So this is a thriller. We are in New York. We're following a woman called Shay. Her life is not going how she wants it to go, and one day she witnesses a suicide as a woman jumps in front of a subway train, which weirdly is the 2nd book I've read this month that involves suicide by train. That was not deliberate. Yeah, so she witnesses this woman's suicide, and she decides to go to the woman's memorial service to try and kind of get a bit of closure, and there she meets this woman's group of friends, and it goes from there, and that is what I will say about the plot. I thought this was good. It did not enjoy it as much as The Wife Between Us. I felt like the plot twist was quite signposted, and also the writing just felt a little bit basic. And I also struggled because I didn't like any of the characters. I really didn't like Shay. She kept making these really annoying decisions. I also didn't like the group of friends for reasons that will become obvious if you pick this up. Yeah, I thought it was fine. I've given it 3 stars. It didn't like rock my socks, but it didn't offend me either. So it's very much kind of a middle of the road 3 stars. And yeah, it was okay. Content warning obviously for suicide, discussions of suicide, murder, coercive control, emotional abuse, and toxic friendships. So yeah, it was okay. It's the 18th of February, and yesterday I received 2 more books from Book Break. They are spoiling me this month. In case this is your first video of mine that you've watched, I'm a Book Break insider. Book Break is part of Pan Macmillan. I will leave the Book Break channel linked in the description, which is hosted and run by the lovely Emma, who also has her own channel, Drinking by My Shelf. And basically I get an email from Book Break once a month with a list of books, and I'm allowed to pick any of them that I like, which is very exciting and definitely my favourite like Booktube perk that I've come across, and yesterday 2 books came through that I had requested from them. The first is Night Shift by Kia, I think, Ladner, and I will find out how to say that correctly by the time I wrap this one up. That's very cool. I really love this cover. It's really creepy. This is, I think, going to be quite a dark psychological book about a woman who takes on a night shift in a building because she wants to get closer to a woman that already works there. And I feel this is going to be kind of that like obsessive, dark, twisty kind of thing. For some reason Book Break sent me 2 copies of this, but thankfully Charlotte from Books and Bargains wants to read it as well. She missed out on requesting it, so I'm going to post it off to her and we will hopefully buddy read this soon, so I'm excited for that. And then this stunning book came through. The thing with the Book Break like list is literally just a list, there's no covers or anything, and I never look the books up. I should really just look them up on Goodreads. But this book arrived and it could not be a more me book. It's also huge, and that is Daughters of Night by Laura Shepherd Robinson. This actually came out today, or the day I'm filming this. How stunning is this cover? Like, it's gorgeous, and it's also huge. How many pages is this? This is historical fiction, 571 pages. Good. This is historical fiction and we are in London in 1782. It also came with a bookmark, which like made me way more excited than it should have done. Yeah, so we're in London in 1782. A woman's body is found murdered, and when the police refuse to do anything, another woman, I think she a noblewoman or something, yeah, she's okay, so a female detective basically decides to look into this woman's death because the police won't do anything because the woman was a sex worker. And it basically goes from there, and on the front it says, "In the wrong hands, a secret is a weapon." So yeah, I'm really intrigued. It also says here, this is right up there with the best of C.J. Sampson, who we know I love, and Andrew Taylor, who is an author I keep meaning to read. So yeah, I'm very excited for this. Thank you so much, Book Break. It's the 19th of February, it's the Friday of half term, and I am actually having a day off, which genuinely feels like a miracle. I managed to get myself into a position yesterday where I could actually take today off and just relax. So that is what I'm doing today. I'm having a very cosy day. I've got this giant, I bought a set of pyjamas, well this set of pyjamas I've got on from Next, but because the problem with buying a set when your body is different sizes is that you have to like pick the bigger size. So I wear a size 14 top and a size 16 bottom. Obviously I had to order the size 16 set so that the bottoms fitted, but it means like, I mean this is supposed to be like a loose like boyfriend style jumper anyway, but it's absolutely huge and you can't sit here, but it literally goes down to my knees. It's very cozy though, so yeah, I'm having a relaxed cozy day. But I've just come on because I finished 2 books yesterday and I've just had a book break book come through again. So the first book that I finished was Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. This is for school. As you can see, it's, I've like, you can't really see them because they're bright yellow, but I've tabbed the chapters. I'm teaching this after half term, and when I was at school we studied To Kill a Mockingbird, which is the other book that you could do instead of this one, and I've never studied it or read it, so I very quickly read it yesterday. It's 102 pages or something, 120 pages, so it's really short, and also like the font's massive, which is obviously why it's taught. I'm going to be teaching it to a group of year 9s who will be 13, 14, and yeah, it's okay. It's about a pair of ranch hands, I think they are, in America in the, I don't know that we're given a time, but I feel like it's sort of Depression era. Obviously I will find this one out before I teach the year 9s, and basically they move to a new farm for work and it's about what happens to them. And yeah, I thought it was good. Something happens at the end that I didn't see coming. I think it's got a lot of interesting discussions to have. One issue that I do have with it is it repeatedly uses the N-word to describe one of the characters, because it was written in the 20s, I think. And when did he write this? 1937. So yeah, there's a black farmhand who is referred to repeatedly as the N-word. I will not be using that word when I'm teaching it or when I'm reading it, but it's just something to be aware of. But yeah, I thought it's got some really interesting messages. It will generate some interesting discussion with the kids, and I gave it 4 stars. And then I finished a book that I gave 5 stars. My first 5-star of the month. I mean, it's the, what date did I say it's today? The 19th. I'm trying to be a bit pickier about the books I give 5 stars to, which I think is why I've given so many 4 stars this month, because like they're almost there but not quite. And this book, when I say I cried, I genuinely sobbed my heart out. And it's a book I didn't expect to like. It's been really hyped on Booktube, which usually puts me off. It's by a really beloved Booktube author that I've never read before, because her previous books, like, they just haven't appealed. Like, the setup and storyline just haven't appealed. This one I found interesting, so I put it on my wish list, and I was sent it by the lovely Faye. And Mr. is with a book as part of our Christmas box swap thing, and that book is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E.Schwab. I adored this. This is loads of things I don't usually like in books. It's slow, it's really slow, it's character driven, but I just adored it, and it's really long as well. It's thick, it's like over 500 pages, but I just had the best time. So we're following Addie LaRue, as you would expect from the title, who in the 1700s in France makes a deal with a god. She doesn't want to get married. She's being forced into a marriage, and she makes a deal to get her out of that marriage and out of her life, and she sells her soul to be free. However, there are some conditions, and basically she can't be remembered, so nobody remembers her. So you could have a conversation with her, and then if she left the room and came back, you would have no idea who she was. And we have dual timelines of her in the 1700s learning to navigate this curse and work out how to live her life, and we're also in 2014 New York, again with Addie, and following her life there, and it moves back and forth in time. And in New York in 2014 she bumps into a boy in a bookshop who remembers her, and that's kind of where the catalyst for the rest of the book. So like the first half of the book is all set up and it's all Addie, and then she meets Henry in a bookshop, and then that sparks the sort of second half of the book, and I just thought it was gorgeous. The first half of it really reminded me of Ursula Flight. What is that book called? It's over there, I can't remember, but Ursula Flight, that book really reminded me of that. And then the second half very much reminded me of The Time Traveller's Wife, and the end. Honestly, the last 100 pages, my heart was in my mouth the whole time. Gary kept looking over at me and he was like, "Are you alright?" Because I was literally like sat reading like this. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have my heart broken. And then honestly, the ending just made me sob. I have given this 5 stars. I think it's fantastic. I cannot wait to reread it already, and I just adored it. So thank you so much, Faye, for sending me this and like giving me the push to read it, because it was a glorious time. And then I've had a little book break delivery this morning, and that is She Who Became the Sun by Shelley Parker Chan. This comes out on the 22nd of July. This is the very beautiful proof copy, and on the back it says, I refuse to be nothing. What if one of the most powerful emperors in China started life as a poor second daughter? And then there's the synopsis, which I won't read because I don't really want to know, but it says here, Mulan meets the Song of Achilles in a stunning queer reimagining of the dawn of the Ming dynasty. I mean, yes, sign me up for this. I'm so excited to read this. It looks fantastic, and yeah, can't wait to dive in. It's the 20th of February. Yesterday I had the most glorious day off. It was wonderful, just relaxed, read, had a ASMR video on in the background of a like crackling fire. There was lots of snacks. It was a good time, and it was exactly what I needed to do. And I also finished 2 books. So the first book that I finished was It's Not About the Burqa, which is edited by Mariam McCann. This was kindly gifted to me by Simone. I'm going to move actually into the centre of the frame. This was gifted to me by Simone, from me, Simone and I, for Christmas, and I saw Harriet from Harriet Rosie Reads talk about it several times on her channel. She was one that made me want to read it and put it on my TBR. This is a collection of essays from Muslim women, and the point of it is for them to for their voices to be heard, because Muslim women get talked about a lot in the media by non-Muslim people, but it's quite rare that we actually hear a Muslim woman speak for herself. So this is a collection of essays from a whole range of different women, on a whole range of different topics. Obviously religion is discussed, but also things like sexuality, mental health, toxic masculinity, and how that affects Muslim men. And I just found this whole thing really interesting. It's really digestible and accessible. It's not academic writing, it's not difficult at all. It's just women talking about the things that affect their lives, and I've given it a 5 star because I just think it's fantastic. I think if you either liked or are interested in collections like Feminists Don't Wear Pink, or It's Not Okay to Be Blue, to Feel Blue, this would be a good one. I think I've said this before, but I very much consider myself to be an intersectional feminist. I don't think you can have feminism without it being intersectional, because to me the point of feminism is that everyone has access to the same things. you know, until we all have equality. Nobody does. And yeah, this book was fantastic. I would really highly recommend it. And also look at the naked hardback, because this is probably one of the nicest naked hardbacks I own. How incredible is that? And it just shows you like the range of women that are Muslim, and you know, there's not one particular type of Muslim woman that's better than any other. So yeah, I just found the whole thing fascinating. Definite 5 stars, and would highly recommend that one. Then I read another book that I was gifted for Christmas. This was sent to me by the lovely Marianne from Cover Books. This is Agnes at the End of the World by Kelly McWilliams. I saw this on Brianna's channel from Coffee Books and Bullet Journals a while ago. I mean, it must have been last year because this came out in June 2020. And I was excited to pick it up. This is a book about a girl that lives in a cult, and it's also about, as you can guess from the title, the end of the world. It is a virus book. It's a pandemic narrative, and it's about this girl Agnes kind of leaving her cult community because one of her younger brothers is really sick. He has diabetes type 1 and he needs insulin. And she leaves and the end of the world happens, and it's about what happens from there. This had a great premise and a great setup, but it was, for me, it was just okay. It is YA. I would say it's fairly young YA. It reads quite young. We get Agnes's perspective and her younger sister Beth. But I just couldn't connect. I didn't get any emotional response to this book at all, so I kind of didn't care about what happened to the characters. It's very much about religion, and maybe that was what blocked me because I am not a religious person at all. But yeah, it was okay. You know, it chugged along, the pace was fine. I just didn't have any kind of emotional connection to it. So yeah, I've given that one 3 stars. And then I got sent 2 books. Well, no, I got sent 1 book yesterday, and then I had a book that I had ordered myself. The first book that I was sent, well, the book that I was sent is Quality Land, which was sent to me by, again, Marianne from Cover Books, who is way too kind and spoils me way too much. Thank you very much, Marianne. If you saw my January wrap-up, which I'll link in the description, you'll see that I'm an idiot, because Marianne sent me this book last month. But I'm an idiot. This was originally written in German, and on Amazon I saw the paperback version. I was like, oh, I'll put that on my wishlist rather than the hardback, which was really expensive, not realising that the paperback version was in German, which I can't read. So Marianne got a refund on that book. I'm still trying to rehome the German edition, so if anybody wants it, let me know. And she very kindly pre-ordered me the paperback version, which came out in English this month, and I'm really excited for this book. Again, it's another one that Harriet has recommended over and over, and it's set in a world where basically, this, as you can probably tell from this, it's kind of an Amazon rip-off, but the company has taken over everything from voting to food shopping. Everything is controlled by the algorithm, and then one day a man gets a parcel with something that he didn't want, and he tries to return it, which is against the rules, and it kind of goes from there, I think. And I'm really excited for this. It sounds so fun and interesting, and I'm excited to pick that up soon. Let's hope one of my TBR games picks this for me soon, otherwise I'm gonna have to break the rules and just read it. And then a book that I bought myself, I'm very excited about, is The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. I mean, can we just have a moment to pause for the beauty of this cover? I'm not going to talk too much about this here because I'm currently filming a video for this book, which will be up in March, but I'm very excited about it. It is set during the 1918 flu in Dublin, and it's about a nurse who is on the maternity ward looking after women that are heavily pregnant and have the flu. So many of my friends and people that I trust have given this 4 or 5 stars. I'm very excited for it. I am, like I said, reading it for a specific reason, which will become clear in March. It's the 24th of February, and last night I finished Deadhead by C.J.Skuse. There is a dedicated reading vlog, well, sort of a reading vlog. There's a dedicated video for this book, which will have gone up before this wrap-up has, so I will link that in the description so you can see my full thoughts. I gave it 4 stars. I absolutely had a brilliant time loving it, reading it, and I would highly recommend it. It is the 25th of February, and last night I finished The Pull of the Stars by Emma Donoghue. I'm actually not going to leave my review here, and I realise this is a wrap-up video, so that probably sounds really weird, but I have a very specific special video coming that involves this book. in a couple of weeks from when you're seeing this. So I just wanted to say that I have read it, I have finished it. I'm not going to give my rating or any thoughts, but that video will be coming up later in March, so you can keep an eye out to see what I thought of this book. It's the 20th of February and yesterday I finished one book and I decided to DNF a book, my first DNF of the year. So I'm going to talk about the DNF first because that's how it happened chronologically, and I feel bad about it because it was a book that I was sent for review. So I really tried. I got about halfway through, but it just wasn't working for me. That book was The Secret Life of Mr. Ruse by Pekkanen. Hopefully I've said that correctly. This was sent to me by Book Break really kindly, but I was just really bored. I've kind of come to the conclusion that like Swedish crime fiction just isn't for me. This is the 4th or 5th one that I've read or tried to read, and they're just too slow paced. This one we follow a man, Mr. Ruse, who wins the lottery, and he doesn't tell his family that he's won the lottery, and he buys this little cabin in the woods, which is like his retreat from the world, and he quits his job, and instead of going to work in the mornings he goes to this cabin. And then one day he gets there and there's this girl who is staying in the cabin, and it's about what happens from there. And I thought this was going to be like a creepy cabin in the woods type book, but I got to the halfway point and almost nothing had happened, and it was just lots of like what this guy had for lunch and the things he bought at the supermarket, and I was just really bored. So it's not badly written, it just wasn't for me. So I just, in the end, I just didn't want to pick it up, so I just decided to DNF. I gave it a good try, it just wasn't for me. And then my last book that I finished of the month was another weird reading experience. That was The Betrayals by Bridget Collins. I was very kindly sent this for Christmas by the lovely, I think it was Sarah, hang on, Hannah, sorry I'm terrible with names, the lovely Hannah who watches my videos, and she very kindly sent me this gorgeous book. I mean, look at the cover, and then also I really love the colour of the naked hardback, and look how gorgeous that is. So I read The Binding by Bridget Collins last year and really enjoyed it. It was a really interesting historical fiction with kind of a magical element woven in, and I was really excited for this one because it's set at this kind of, I don't know if it says it explicitly, but it's kind of a university type setup, so kind of dark academia vibes. We've got a guy who has to return to his university years later for certain reasons, and it's kind of about like secrets and lies and all that kind of thing. I found this really weird, and it's the day after I finished reading it and I still can't decide if I enjoyed reading it or not. There is no world building whatsoever, so I didn't know where we were in time. I wasn't sure if it was set in the real world or in a fantasy world. I didn't know which country we were in, and it's all based around this game, but you don't ever get the game explained to you, so it's kind of difficult to understand why they care because you don't really understand what's at stake. I also didn't like either of the two main characters, and the ending was just really, like, the ending just tailed off. So I've given it 3 stars because sections of it are really beautifully written and really descriptive and lyrical and all the rest of it, but I just didn't care. So yeah, it was kind of a weird reading experience. And those are all the books that I read in the month of February. So it's now the 1st of March. I'm just jumping on to quickly wrap up this wrap up. March was kind of a weird month. I read a lot, which I wasn't expecting at the start of this at all. I managed to finish that TBR that was set for me by Twitter, which was a miracle. Thoroughly enjoyed having Twitter choose my reading for me. I have definitely found this month that I love not being in control of that. It's nice just to be told what to read next, so very much enjoyed that. At the time of filming this one, my March TBR has been chosen, and you'll have to obviously tune in for that to see how that was selected, and that was a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this kind of way of experimenting with choosing my TBRs, so that was a lot of fun. Let's quickly do some stats and then I'll stop talking because this video is probably over an hour long already. So I finished 17 books. I read 6,198 pages, which is 222 pages a day, which is actually more pages a day than I read in January. So in January I finished 20 books. Obviously January is a week longer. So yeah, my reading pace has increased somehow this month. My average star rating was 3.8, so as you'll have seen if you've watched this whole video, I only gave out a couple of 5 stars. It was definitely the month of the 4-star read. So yeah, my average rating has dropped slightly from last month to 3.8, which is absolutely fine. I only gave a couple of 5 stars out, but there was only one book that I could choose for my book of the month, and that was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E.Schwab. It's now a couple of weeks since I read this, and I'm already desperate to reread it, so that's turned out to be an unexpected gem for me. And the most disappointing book, this isn't the lowest rated book that I gave this month, but the most disappointing has to go to The Silence by Don DeLillo, because it just was not at all what I was expecting, so I was quite disappointed by this one. So that's kind of my least favourite read of the month. What other stats have I written down here? Oh yeah, and my favourite poem of the month, which I'll link in the description, is The Poetry Grand National by Roger Stevens. It's really clever, especially if you're a word nerd like me. I am not at all a fan of the Grand National, and I wish it was something that didn't take place, but this takes the idea of a race and swaps in different grammatical terms like adverbs and similes and things, and puts them into a poem. It's really fun, and I will leave a link in the description in case you want to see it. So yeah, that has been my month. Yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. I always find it really difficult to know if people enjoy my wrap up because they are super long, but they tend to be my most watched videos, so I'm just going to keep doing it this way unless you guys tell me otherwise. If you made it to this point in the video, please leave me a blue heart emoji for this gorgeous cover. Just let me know that you were here. Please subscribe if you haven't already and you would like more of this chaos, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks guys, bye.